Ladies and gentlemen, let us open our hearts and minds to consider a truth that often hides in plain sight. Picture a woman strong, talented, full of potential, yet surrounded by silence. No friends to lean on, no shoulders to cry on, no shouting echoing in her private moments. Her life, outwardly functional, inwardly feels like a garden without flowers. Why does this happen? Why do some women find themselves walking a solitary path in a world brimming with opportunities to connect? It's not always because they lack charm, intelligence, or kindness. Sometimes it's because life has shaped them in ways others don't fully understand. Perhaps she trusted, and that trust was broken. Perhaps she gave, and what she gave was taken for granted. This woman may carry an armor forged by experience. She's learned to protect her heart, to shield her dreams from those who might trample them. But here's the thing about armor: it keeps harm out, but it also keeps love out. There are women whose independence intimidates others. Their strength is misinterpreted as coldness, their boundaries as arrogance. Yet, if we look closer, we find a soul yearning for connection, a heart that beats like yours and mine. She is not unfeeling, she has simply learned to survive. But the truth is, no human was created to live in isolation. We are wired for connection, for relationships that lift us, challenge us, and remind us of our worth. A woman with no friends may have the walls of her fortress up high, but even she feels the longing for companionship, a longing that whispers to her in the quiet hours, calling her to trust again, to open up once more. And for those of us who might encounter such a woman, let us not judge her. Let us not assume she doesn't need us or that she's content in her solitude. Instead, let us be the ones to extend kindness, patience, and understanding. Let us show her that friendship is not a burden, but a gift that can heal, restore, and breathe life into the parts of her that have long been dormant. Because a woman with no friends is not a woman without value. She is not a woman without beauty, strength, or purpose. She is simply a woman waiting for the right people to remind her of the joy and power of connection. And when those connections come, they can change her world. A woman with no friends often becomes an enigma to those around her. She may not fit into the social molds that others expect. She is the one who sits alone at gatherings or politely declines invitations without offering much explanation. Yet her solitude is not always a choice born of preference. It can be a survival mechanism, a shield against past wounds or disappointments that have left marks no one else can see. Sometimes this woman is misjudged. People may see her as aloof or detached, but the truth is more complex. She might have grown up in an environment where trust was scarce and connections were transactional. Perhaps in her formative years, she reached out only to find that the hands she grabbed were fleeting or harmful. These experiences teach lessons, often harsh ones, that leave an imprint on the soul. The fewer ties you have, the fewer betrayals you endure. But while walls can protect, they can also imprison. Over time, isolation can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Without connections, there's no one to affirm her worth, no one to share her joys or lighten her burdens. The isolation becomes a kind of echo chamber, where insecurities grow louder and self-doubt takes deeper root. Even the most independent spirit can find herself longing for a genuine connection, for someone to look at her and say, I see you. I value you. We live in a world that celebrates extroversion, that praises those who can command a room and gather a crowd. Yet there is a quiet strength in the woman who walks alone. She often possesses resilience forged in the fires of hardship and inner resolve that few can match. Her solitude might be a testament to her ability to endure, to carry her struggles without seeking validation or sympathy. This is admirable, yes. But it is also a reminder of what she might be missing. The absence of friends doesn't mean the absence of need. Every human being, no matter how self-sufficient, craves understanding. We are social creatures by nature, designed to thrive in the company of others. A life without friendship can feel like a beautiful melody played in an empty hall full of potential but lacking an audience to appreciate its depth and meaning. Think about the moments in life that carry the most weight, the victories, the heartbreaks, the milestones. These moments gain significance when they are shared. A laugh becomes more vibrant when echoed by another. A sorrow feels lighter when carried by two. The woman with no friends carries all of these moments alone. She celebrates alone. She mourns alone. And in that solitude, even the brightest joys can feel dimmed. What leads a woman to this state? Sometimes it's a matter of circumstance. Perhaps life moved her away from the friendships of her youth, and the demands of adulthood left little room for rebuilding. Perhaps she invested in relationships that drained rather than nourished her, leaving her hesitant to try again. Or maybe she carries a sense of unworthiness, a belief planted long ago that she is not enough, that her flaws outweigh her gifts, making her undeserving of true companionship. But let us pause here, because this is where hope begins. Every story of isolation contains the seeds of transformation. A woman with no friends is not a woman without the capacity for connection. Her heart, though guarded, is not closed. Her spirit, though weary, is not defeated. She is capable of love, of trust, of the kind of friendships that fill life with richness and meaning. What does it take to break through her barriers? Patience, for one. A friend who is willing to stay, even when she tests their sincerity. Empathy, because understanding her journey requires stepping into her shoes. And vulnerability, because trust is built on mutual openness. When someone takes the time to truly see her, to honor her story without judgment, she begins to believe in the possibility of connection again. For this woman, friendship may look different. It might not involve daily texts or constant companionship. She may need space, time, and reassurance that her boundaries will be respected. But when she chooses to let someone in, it is a profound act of courage. She is not just opening her life, she is opening her heart, trusting that this time the connection will not bring harm. Let us also consider the ripple effect of such friendships. When a woman who has lived in isolation begins to experience genuine connection, her entire perspective shifts. She begins to see herself through the eyes of those who care for her, to recognize her worth not as something she must prove, but as something inherently hers. This realization empowers her to grow, to dream, to give of herself in ways she never thought possible. And for those who extend that hand of friendship, the rewards are immense. They gain not only a friend, but also a deeper understanding of resilience, strength, and grace. They learn that true connection is not about perfection, but about authenticity. In reaching out to this woman, they become part of a story of transformation, a story that speaks to the power of love, patience, and human connection. So as we consider the woman with no friends, let us not see her as a figure of pity or judgment. Let us see her as a reminder of what it means to be human. She teaches us about the importance of kindness, the courage it takes to trust, and the beauty of relationships that heal and uplift. She shows us that no one is beyond the reach of connection, and that even the most solitary paths can lead to meaningful friendships. Her story is not over. Her walls are not unbreakable, and her heart, though scarred, still beats with the rhythm of hope. She is waiting not passively, but with quiet strength for the moment when someone will see her for who she truly is and remind her that she was never meant to walk alone. And so, as we go forward, let us be those people. Let us reach out, extend grace, and build the kind of connections that remind all of us of the simple, profound truth: we are better together. When we look at a woman who appears to walk through life alone, we are often quick to assume that her solitude is a choice. We may imagine she enjoys the silence, that she has no desire for company, or that she is perfectly content in her own world. Yet, beneath the surface, her story is rarely so simple. Her silence may be a quiet plea for understanding, a reflection of the battle she has fought alone, or an echo of the betrayals that have taught her to be wary of opening her heart again. This woman, whether by circumstance or design, lives in a space that many of us would find unthinkable. She celebrates milestones in silence, without a chorus of friends to cheer her on. When she stumbles or falters, there is no one to offer her a hand to steady her footing. She navigates her pain, her joy, and her triumphs in solitude, carrying it all in a space where no one else enters. It is not weakness that keeps her there. It is the residue of her life's experiences, shaping her perception of the world and the relationships she allows herself to have. Her solitude does not diminish her strength. In fact, it is often a sign of a woman who has learned to endure. A woman with no friends often knows what it means to survive. She has walked through seasons of life when there was no one to call, no one to lean on, and no one to confide in. She has learned to be her own support system, her own cheerleader, her own voice of reason. This kind of strength is not easily cultivated. It is born out of necessity, owned through trial and persistence. But even the strongest among us long for the warmth of companionship, for the unspoken understanding that comes when you are truly seen by another. A woman without friends often holds her emotions close. She may laugh and smile, masking the deep longing for connection that she feels beneath the surface. She might even convince herself that she doesn't need others, that the vulnerability required to form close relationships is a risk she would rather not take. But every human heart is wired for connection. No matter how much she has trained herself to thrive in solitude, there remains an innate desire to be known, to be valued, and to be loved. Life has a way of creating gaps in our story spaces where relationships are lost, trust is broken, and walls are built to protect what is left. For some women, those gaps remain unfilled for years. Friends from childhood may drift away. The demands of adulthood may replace intimate conversations with busy schedules. And wounds from betrayal may create barriers that feel insurmountable. Slowly, without even realizing it, a woman can find herself alone, not because she wanted it that way, but because the currents of life pulled her in that direction. It's important to recognize that a woman with no friends is not inherently broken or unworthy. Her solitude is not a reflection of her character or her value. In fact, some of the most compassionate, intelligent, and capable women find themselves in this position. Their strength, independence, and resilience may intimidate others. Their past experiences may make them cautious about whom they let in. But within them lies the same yearning for connection that exists in all of us, a desire to be part of something bigger than themselves, to share their lives with others, and to be surrounded by people who care deeply for them. This longing for connection does not always manifest in obvious ways. It might appear as a quiet sadness in the moments when the world celebrates connection during holidays, at weddings, or on the days when social media is flooded with pictures of friends enjoying life together. She might not say it out loud, but she feels it, the ache of being on the outside looking in, of wondering what it would feel like to have a circle of friends who love her just as she is. Yet, this woman is not a victim of her circumstances. She is not powerless to change her story. While her path may have been shaped by pain, fear, or isolation, she holds within her the ability to rebuild. She can open herself to the possibility of friendship, even if it feels foreign or daunting at first. She can take small steps accepting an invitation, sharing a piece of her story, or simply choosing to believe that not everyone will hurt her. These small acts of courage can begin to dismantle the walls she has built, creating space for the right people to enter her life. For those who encounter such a woman, there is an opportunity to be part of her transformation. It starts with seeing her for who she truly is, not as someone who is distant or difficult, but as someone who has walked a unique and challenging path. It means offering patience, understanding, and empathy, recognizing that building trust takes time. It requires showing her through actions rather than words that she is worthy of connection, that she doesn't have to carry the weight of life alone. Friendship is not about perfection, it is about presence. It is about showing up, listening, and being there for someone even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. A woman who has spent years in solitude may not immediately know how to receive this kind of love, but with time she will come to see its value. She will begin to understand that friendship is not a burden, it is a gift that enriches both the giver and the receiver. Imagine the ripple effect of one person choosing to reach out to a woman who has no friends. That single act of kindness can plant a seed of hope, reminding her that she is not invisible, that her story matters, and that she is capable of meaningful connection. Over time, as she begins to trust and open her heart, she can experience the transformative power of friendship. She can find joy in the little moments of shared laughter, comfort in knowing that someone is there to support her, and strength in the bonds that remind her she is not alone. And what about the rest of us? What can we learn from the story of a woman with no friends? Her journey is a reminder of the importance of compassion. It challenges us to look beyond surface appearances, to see the humanity in those who seem distant or different. It encourages us to be intentional about the way we build relationships, to recognize that every person we meet carries a story we may never fully understand. Her story also invites us to reflect on our own lives. Are we taking our friendships for granted? Are we nurturing the relationships that matter most to us? Are we extending grace to those who might be struggling in silence? The woman with no friends reminds us that connection is not just a privilege, it is a responsibility. It is something we must choose to cultivate, not only for ourselves, but for the people around us. A life without friendship is not a life without meaning, but it is a life that misses out on one of the greatest gifts we can experience. Connection brings color to our days, depth to our experiences, and resilience to our struggles. For the woman with no friends, this is not an unattainable dream, it is a possibility waiting to be embraced. And for those who walk alongside her, there is an opportunity to help her see that she is worthy of the love and connection she has always deserved. A woman with no friends moves through the world carrying an invisible weight. It's a burden that is rarely acknowledged because it's not easily seen. People often don't ask about the absence of friends. They might notice she's alone and assume she prefers it that way. They might even admire her independence, mistaking it for satisfaction. But within her solitude lies a complex story, a story of resilience, fear, strength, and longing, all tangled together. This woman might have started life with an open heart, ready to connect, trust, and love. Perhaps she was once surrounded by people who laughed with her, confided in her, and celebrated life alongside her. But something shifted. It could have been a betrayal, a loss, or a gradual realization that those she gave her time and energy to were not giving the same in return. These moments, these fractures in trust leave marks that are hard to erase. Friendship, when it is true, is a refuge. It is a safe space where you can bring your authentic self without fear of judgment or rejection. But for a woman who has lost her faith in others, the idea of opening herself up again can feel almost impossible. She might tell herself that it's easier to be alone, that she doesn't need anyone, or that no one would understand her anyway. These are the walls she builds, not because she doesn't want connection, but because she fears the pain that could come with it. In her solitude, she might have become an expert at self-reliance. She knows how to solve her own problems, how to comfort herself in moments of sorrow, and how to celebrate her own victories. There is a certain pride in this independence, but there is also a quiet ache. Who does she call when the burden becomes too heavy? who listens to her stories, her dreams, her fears. The silence in her life is not always peaceful, it can be deafening. There are moments when the loneliness breaks through her defenses. She might see a group of friends laughing together and feel a pang of longing she doesn't know how to express. She might hear about someone's close-knit circle and wonder why she doesn't have the same. These feelings are often buried quickly, masked by busyness or rationalized with thoughts like, I don't need that anyway, but deep down she knows she does. This woman's story is not unique, though it might feel that way to her. Many women, for various reasons, find themselves without close friendships. It might be because life pulled them in different directions, career changes, moves to new cities, or shifts in priorities. It might be because they poured themselves into their families or their work, leaving little time for anything else. Or it might be because they were hurt time and time again until they decided it was safer to keep their distance. The absence of friends doesn't mean the absence of desire. She wants to connect, she just doesn't know how to begin again. The process of rebuilding trust, of opening her heart, feels daunting. What if she tries and it doesn't work out? What if she lets someone in only to be hurt again? These fears are not unfounded, they are rooted in real experiences. But they are also the chains that keep her from stepping into the fullness of life. For a woman with no friends, small gestures can make a big difference. A kind word, an invitation, or a genuine interest in her life can begin to chip away at the wall she's built. She might not respond immediately. She might test the sincerity of those reaching out to her. But over time, consistent acts of kindness can remind her that there are people who see her, value her, and want to know her. Her journey back to connection is not linear. There will be moments when she feels ready to trust, only to retreat again at the first sign of uncertainty. This is not a weakness, it is a natural response to the experiences that have shaped her. The people who truly care about her will understand this. They will give her the space she needs while continuing to show up for her in meaningful ways. And what happens when she does begin to open up? The transformation is profound. A woman who has spent years in solitude, carrying the weight of life on her own, begins to feel lighter. She discovers that she doesn't have to do everything alone, that there are people willing to stand beside her and share the load. She begins to laugh more freely, to dream more boldly, and to see herself through the eyes of those who care for her. Friendship is a mirror. It reflects back to us the parts of ourselves we might not see otherwise. For a woman who has lived without this reflection, stepping into a space of connection can be both exhilarating and terrifying. But as she begins to trust, she also begins to heal. The wounds of the past don't disappear, but they lose their power to define her. It's important to remember that friendship doesn't have to look a certain way. For some women, it might mean having one or two close connections rather than a large social circle. For others, it might mean rekindling old relationships or finding community in unexpected places. What matters is not the number of friends, but the quality of the connections. True friendship is about being seen, understood, and accepted. The woman who once believed she was destined to walk alone can find her place in the world of connection. It might take time. It might require courage she didn't know she had. But the rewards are worth it. The joy of sharing life with others, the comfort of knowing someone has her back, and the strength that comes from mutual support are gifts that cannot be measured. And for those who are lucky enough to befriend such a woman, the experience is equally transformative. They gain a friend who knows the value of connection, who doesn't take relationships for granted, and who brings a depth of perspective shaped by her journey. They learn from her resilience, her wisdom, and her quiet strength. The beauty of human connection is that it is never too late. No matter how many years have passed, no matter how many disappointments she has faced, there is always the possibility of a new beginning. The woman with no friends is not defined by her solitude. She is defined by her capacity to grow, to heal, and to connect. Her story is one of hope, reminding us all that even in the most isolated moments, we are never truly alone. A woman with no friends often finds herself navigating a world that doesn't fully understand her. Society places a significant emphasis on social connections, viewing them as a marker of fulfillment, happiness, and success. Yet for her, these connections remain distant, elusive, or even unattainable. She might hear phrases like, everyone needs a support system, or good friends are the family you choose, and while she may agree in theory, her lived experience paints a different picture. Her life may not lack meaning, but it often lacks the shared joy of companionship. She has built her existence on self-reliance, becoming the person she turns to for comfort, advice, and motivation. There's strength in this, but also an underlying fragility. Humans are not meant to shoulder everything alone, no matter how capable or strong they might be. The absence of friendship leaves gap spaces where encouragement, empathy, and mutual celebration should exist. When she looks around, she may see others forming bonds effortlessly, their connections seemingly forged with ease. To her, it feels like an invisible barrier separates her from that world. She may struggle to understand why these relationships don't come naturally for her. Is it something she lacks? Is it something she projects? These questions linger in her mind, often unanswered, adding layers of self-doubt to her solitude. Her heart, though guarded, is not impenetrable. She feels deeply, even if she doesn't show it. When she sees others sharing laughter, leaning on each other, or confiding in trusted friends, a quiet ache stirs within her. She dreams of moments like that, of a time when someone might care enough to ask how she's truly doing and stay long enough to hear the real answer. Yet, she often silences that hope, fearing it will only lead to disappointment. Over time, her isolation can begin to feel like an inevitability, as though it's woven into the fabric of her life. But the truth is, isolation is never a fixed state. It is a circumstance that can change. The first step is often the hardest, believing that she is worthy of connection. This belief may feel out of reach after years of self-doubt or experiences that taught her otherwise, but it is the foundation upon which all relationships are built. Her caution is not a flaw. It is a survival instinct. It is her way of protecting herself from further pain. But in protecting herself, she also risks missing out on the beauty of true friendship. To form meaningful connections, she must take a leap of faith, one small step at a time. This might look like accepting an invitation, initiating a conversation, or expressing vulnerability in a way that feels safe. Each act, though seemingly minor, builds her confidence and reminds her that trust, while risky, can also be rewarding. For those who wish to connect with her, patience and empathy are essential. She might not respond to overtures right away. She might test the sincerity of those who reach out, or withdraw at the first sign of uncertainty. This is not because she doesn't want connection, it's because she's been conditioned to protect herself from potential hurt. Consistency is key, showing her through actions rather than words that she is valued, respected, and understood. When she does begin to form bonds, the transformation is profound. The woman who once felt invisible, who doubted her place in the world of connection, begins to see herself through new eyes. She discovers that she is not only capable of friendship, but deserving of it. She learns that she doesn't have to carry life's burdens alone, and that there is immense strength in leaning on others. Friendship does not erase the challenges she has faced, but it reframes them. Through the lens of connection, her past experiences take on new meaning. She begins to see her resilience as a strength, her vulnerability as a gift, and her story as one worth sharing. The bonds she forms remind her that she is not defined by her solitude, but by her capacity to grow and heal. Her journey is not without its setbacks. There will be moments when she questions her worth or when old fears resurface. But each time she chooses to trust, to connect, or to take a step outside her comfort zone, she builds a foundation for a richer, more fulfilling life. Friendship, after all, is not about perfection. It's about showing up, being present, and sharing life's moments, both big and small. This story, though deeply personal to her, resonates with all of us. It is a reminder of the importance of connection, the courage it takes to trust, and the beauty that lies in relationships built on authenticity and mutual care. It teaches us to look beyond appearances, to see the humanity in others, and to recognize that everyone, no matter how strong or independent they appear, has a need to be seen and valued. The woman with no friends is not a figure of pity. She is a testament to resilience. Her story is one of hope, of transformation, and of the unshakable truth that we are never truly alone. Even in the quietest moments of solitude, the potential for connection exists, waiting to be embraced. And when it is, it has the power to change everything. A woman with no friends carries an unspoken complexity, a quiet narrative that unfolds behind closed doors and within her own heart. Her journey, often misunderstood by the world around her, is not simply one of isolation, but of adaptation, resilience, and introspection. She exists in spaces where her thoughts echo back to her, unfiltered by the companionship of others. These spaces, while heavy with solitude, are also filled with untapped potential, yearning for connection, and the strength that only someone who has walked her path can truly understand. Her days are filled with the routines of survival, the ebb and flow of life that does not pause for reflection or self-pity. She wakes up, goes about her tasks, and fulfills her responsibilities with an efficiency that suggests all is well. But beneath the surface lies a rich inner world, one she rarely shares. It is a world filled with questions. What would it feel like to have someone to share this with? Am I missing out on something essential? Is there a reason I'm alone? These questions linger, often unanswered, because the answers are not simple. They are tied to layers of experiences that have shaped her perspective. Perhaps she once had friends, people she laughed with, confided in, and trusted. But time, distance, and misunderstandings can erode even the strongest of bonds. Or perhaps her life has been a series of transitions, new cities, new jobs, new phases of life that made maintaining old connections difficult and building new ones seem daunting. The reasons for her solitude are unique to her, but the emotions they stir are universal: the longing for connection, the fear of rejection, and the hope that one day things might be different. Her solitude is both a refuge and a cage. It protects her from the potential pain of betrayal or disappointment, but it also keeps her from experiencing the joy of being truly known. Over time, she might begin to tell herself that she doesn't need anyone, that her independence is a badge of honor. And while there is strength in being self-sufficient, there is also a quiet ache that comes with carrying life's burdens alone. She navigates celebrations and challenges alike without the familiar chorus of friends cheering her on or offering support. Birthdays pass with little fanfare. Achievements are celebrated in silence. Even the hardest moments, losses, setbacks, heartbreaks are faced without the comfort of a shoulder to lean on. She has learned to be her own cheerleader, her own comforter, her own source of strength. But even the strongest among us are not meant to walk through life alone. Her experience is not an indictment of her character. She is not unworthy of friendship, nor is she incapable of forming meaningful connections. In fact, many women who find themselves without friends are among the most compassionate, thoughtful, and introspective people. Their solitude is not a reflection of who they are, but of the circumstances they face. and the choices they've made in response. Some have chosen to step back from relationships that no longer serve them. Others have struggled to find people who truly understand them. And some have simply been caught in the whirlwind of life, where friendships fade not out of malice but out of neglect. Her longing for connection is not always visible. It might manifest in subtle ways: a lingering glance at a group of friends laughing together, a moment of hesitation before declining an invitation, or a quiet tear shed in the privacy of her own space. These moments are reminders that no matter how independent she appears, she is human. She desires what we all desire: to be seen, heard, and valued. Building friendships as an adult is not easy, especially for someone who has been without them for so long. It requires vulnerability, patience, and a willingness to step into the unknown. For her, this process might feel overwhelming. Where does she start? How does she bridge the gap between where she is and where she wants to be? These questions can paralyze her, keeping her stuck in a cycle of longing and hesitation. Yet, even the smallest steps can create ripples. Accepting a coffee invitation, joining a community group, or simply striking up a conversation can open doors she didn't realize were there. These moments might feel insignificant at first, but they are acts of courage. They are her way of saying, I am open to connection even when it feels risky. For those who encounter her, understanding and empathy are crucial. It's easy to misinterpret her solitude as aloofness or disinterest, but often it's simply caution. She has learned to guard her heart, to test the waters before diving in. Patience is key. Genuine, consistent efforts to connect with her can make all the difference. She needs to see that someone is willing to stay, to invest in her, and to value her for who she is. Friendship, when it finally takes root in her life, is transformative. It is not about quantity but quality. Even one meaningful connection can change everything. It reminds her that she is not alone, that there are people who care about her, and that her presence matters. It gives her a space to share her joys and sorrows, to be vulnerable without fear of judgment, and to feel the warmth of mutual understanding. Her journey toward connection is not linear. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and times when she feels like retreating back into the safety of solitude. But each time she chooses to step forward, she strengthens her capacity for trust and openness. Each new connection, no matter how small, becomes a building block for the life she wants to create. Her story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Despite the challenges she has faced, she continues to hope, to try, and to believe that connection is possible. Her journey reminds us all the importance of compassion, both for ourselves and for others. It challenges us to look beyond appearances, to see the humanity in those who seem distant, and to recognize that everyone, no matter how strong or independent they appear, has a need for connection. For the woman with no friends, her solitude is not the end of the story. It is a chapter 1 that can be followed by new beginnings, meaningful connections, and the profound joy of being truly seen and valued. And for those who walk alongside her, there is an opportunity to be part of that story, to extend kindness, and to remind her that she is not alone. Through these acts of connection, we not only transform her life, but also enrich our own, experiencing the beauty of friendship in its truest form. The woman with no friends is not a symbol of failure, but of untapped potential, unspoken strength, and a heart waiting to be understood. Her story is a call to action for herself and for all of us. To her, the message is clear: you are worthy of connection, you are deserving of love, and it is never too late to rewrite the narrative of your life. To those around her, the message is just as vital: look beyond the surface, extend compassion, and be the kind of friend that invites trust and healing. In a world that often values appearances over authenticity, let us remember that true connection is not about the number of relationships we have, but the depth of the ones we nurture. Let us commit to seeing the unseen, hearing the unheard, and valuing the undervalued. Because in lifting each other, we create a world where no woman, no person walks through life feeling invisible or alone. Her story is not over, and neither is ours. Together we can choose to be the bridge to belonging, the hand that reaches out, and the heart that reminds her and ourselves that we are all worthy of love, trust, and friendship.